Welcome to SORMAG's Writers Café, where we share the real writer's life over a cup of friendship, sprinkled with laughter and wisdom. My name is LaShaunda Hoffman, and I'm your host for today. This episode's sponsor is Using Canva for Book Promotion Video Series. Today, sitting at the cafe with me is Miss Toshiba Billings. I'm excited to have her here with me today. We're going to do a one-on-one conversation today. So welcome, Toshiba.
And welcome, LaShaunda. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we're going to have a good time, just us ladies.
All right. So tell us a little bit about you and your books, please.
Awesome. So about me, my name is Toshiba Billings, as she said. I like to call myself an authoress. Cue Maya from Girlfriends. As I say, if you watch Girlfriends, Maya used to call herself an authoress, and I figured it sounds more fancy than an author. I'm a mother. I'm a creator. I'm the best friend you never knew you needed, but definitely should have. I am authentically me and audaciously me and bold to be me. So that's what I would say about Toshiba.
All right, Toshiba. Would you like to read an excerpt of your book, please?
You know what? The best part, I was sitting here as I was thinking about it. I said, you know what? Let me read the actual back cover of the book. I think that will be interesting so people would kind of get what the book is all about. So I'm going to go ahead and read the back cover. So it says, we all need that friend who will tell us shit we don't want to hear, even though we know we will be better for taking their advice. Hey, friend, nice to meet you. No Handouts for Black Girls is a part cautionary tale, part love letter to Black women that will take the reader through a range of emotions. Using personal anecdotes with often hilarious real talk, no BS advice, this book dismantles the fallacy of the strong Black woman and how trying to live up to that narrative has kept us from living our whole truth. We're going to face some harsh realities we deal with, realities we would rather not face but damn well need to. It is an outpouring of love and a call of action for us to abandon some of our past teachings, embracing all that makes us the badasses we are. Written in my own witty and unfiltered way, this is my appeal to you to get your shit together by making you smell it for what it is. Whether you love me or hate me after reading what lies inside, you will be better having met me, the best friend you never knew you wanted but damn well needed. Buckle up, it's about to be one hell of a ride. And so that's my back cover for No Handouts for Black Girls.
Okay, so I'm curious, what made you write this book?
You know what? It started off because I had an incident at a workplace that opened up some wounds, and I talk about it in the first chapter, but I'll essentially let you know what this person said to me. And so I had come back to my office after a meeting, was working on a project with this particular person, was explaining to them the outcome of the meeting, and that during the meeting I was actually asked to speak at an event. It was actually a Women's Day event that I was asked to speak at. And my white colleague looked at me from her office and said, you know they only asked you to do that because you're Black, right? I know, I laugh about it now. And so I had in that moment there were so many, and again, the first part of the book, the excerpt, I basically say what was going on in my mind, and then what I actually did, which, again, I didn't do what was going on in my mind. Let's just say that. And stepping back from that situation, it kind of opened up wounds to realize how many microaggressions and things that I had dealt with in the corporate world. But then the book started out really wanting to heal from that thing and talking about, the work twice as hard for half as much fallacy. And then it went into actually talking about relationships, because I realized how a lot of us are pursuing we're doing all these professional pursuits, but the reality is some of us aren't putting in the same energy for our personal pursuits. And this fallacy of the strong Black woman is hurting us both professionally and personally. So then the book morphed into really just talking about me and my life and giving really advice. I call it, No Handouts for Black Girl, a love letter to us. And that's basically how it started off. But it ended up being a real therapy session for myself and hopefully for the people who read it.
Ooh, that sounds like a deep book right there. Was it hard for you to write, or did it flow for you?
You know what? It's funny. It flowed. So this started off as like a 355-page, like over 50,000-word book. And at the end of it, after my editor and I got a hold of it, it's 112 pages all in. And I don't even want to say. I want to say maybe it's 15,000 or 20,000 words. So I think for me, I just started writing. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote until the point where I was like, I don't have any more. And then we just kind of took it and literally ripped it apart. Moving chapters, adding things, taking away things. So the editing process was interesting, but for me, it just kind of flowed. And when I felt there was nothing more I could spew, I ended and then I ripped it apart.
Yeah, so it was like getting that rant out of your head and then fixing it up to look pretty.
There you go. Exactly.
Oh, I love that. Friendship is a hard thing, especially for a black woman. I love to delve into that a little bit because I've used myself as an example. I am a person who loves friendships. I've had a friend since the 4th grade, and we're in our 40s, 50s now. And we when we were a little younger, we talked all the time. Now we might talk once a year, but when we talk, it's like we've never met, never been away from each other and stuff like that. And people will say, how can you consider her your best friend when you guys don't even do anything together, hang out or nothing like that? And I think you have those I call them long-term life friendships. It's forever, and then you have. It took me a long time to understand friendships because I went into the Navy, and when I went into the Navy, I learned a lot about friendships, that friendships weren't forever. Me and my friends been friends since the 4th grade, so I go to the Navy, and I meet all these different people when I go to different bases, and then I don't see them ever again. And that was really hard for me. I have one friend I have two friends from my Navy time. One I met in boot camp. And we worked at keeping our friendship because we weren't stationed together. So we met at boot camp, and then I went to Guam. She went to Greece, Greenland. Wow. And we kept in touch through letters. Nobody else was writing each other. So I think that's what saved us, is that we wrote each other. We didn't talk too much, but we wrote each other's letters. And it wasn't like every month or something, just a couple of letters, catch up and stuff like that. And then we would see each other maybe every couple of years. She came to see me. Most of the time I couldn't go see her. But she would always, whenever she was traveling, she came to see me. And then she stayed in the military and I got out. And so we kept the friendship that way. And we're still buddies. We still do see each other and stuff. And then I have another friend that I met when I was stationed in Guam. And so we kind of, we found each other on Facebook. So we just, we're not friends, we're just Facebook buddies. I guess that's what you would call it. But it surprised me when I thought that I would have, we always talk about you're going to have lifelong friends from the military, the schools and stuff like that. And I found that it takes a lot of work to have a friendship. And a lot of people don't understand that. They want to be your friend, but they want you to do all the work. That was my thing. I'm a letter writer, and I'm the one that's writing the letters. And I'm writing the letters. You getting the letters, but you're not writing back to me. And I was like, oh man. And it took me a long time to realize that people are in your life for a season. And
amen.
Some seasons, maybe, you might get spring and the summer, but you might not get fall and winter, and it took me a long time to accept that because I just like, I don't understand, what am I doing wrong? I thought it was me, that I was doing something wrong. And then I realized, like I said before, that friendship is a two-way street, you have to work at it. And then one of the things that I learned once I moved back home and is that I also had to do my part too. I was like, what, I'm okay being by myself. And I thought that was true, but it's not. you need your girlfriends, you need your hangout buddies and stuff. And so I found all that online. I went online because I couldn't find anybody in my community to hang out with. And so I found a lot of people online and I'm still friends 20 plus years later with a lot of them, and we meet at conferences and things like that. But I also know that it takes time to nourish those friendships too. So one of the lessons that I have learned about friendship is that it's a commitment. So you have to decide if you're going to commit to it and work at it, or are you just going to be a ship passing in a, hey, how you doing, and keep moving, sort of thing. What's your opinion about friendship?
A friendship, like anything, is a relationship with another person or a group of people. And every relationship requires work to sustain itself. One of the best poems I ever read was a poem called Reason, Season, and Lifetime. I still haven't been able to find the author. It says unknown, but it basically talks very similar. People come into your life for a reason, season, and a lifetime, and whatever that is, we just have to deal with it, right? My oldest friend is from grade 1. I was 5 years old, and I was living in Jamaica. I was born in Jamaica, grew up in Toronto, Canada. I'm currently in Arizona. And, moving from Jamaica to Toronto, we kind of kept in touch. Then she joined the military, and then there was all this stuff that happened. But then we ended up, Facebook as well, ended up reconnecting us through a mutual friend who reconnected us, and that was amazing. And I still consider her one of my closest friends. We don't speak all the time, just like you and your friend, but when we do, it's catching up and memory. She reminds me of a time in my life that I really loved growing up as a little girl, right? But we both know it takes effort. And so, neither one of us are mad at each other. We don't come together upset because we aren't staying in touch. Life happens, and we get that, right? My other closest friendships are from, university. I'm 41. I'm talking about 23 years. And those we do stay in touch. I've, again, recently moved, and so, again, it's a lot more difficult because I'm not there physically, and there's all of these things, but we make sure we make an effort to video call or whatever it is. But the reality is, if they're not doing it and I'm going to feel slighted, like in any relationship. If you're giving your partner so much of yourself and you don't feel anything reciprocated, you're going to feel a bit slighted. And I think that's where communication comes in, I think that's where, again, just like any relationship, if we want it to work, communication is important. My boyfriend and I were talking about this earlier. Our relationship started off the way it did because we communicated about our wants, our needs, our desires, what a relationship would look like. It's the same with friendships, especially friendships that you've had for a while. People change, things change, circumstances change. And when those things change, I think it's important to revisit kind of that friendship contract and say, now that we're in a different place, a different time, whatever the situation is, how can we structure this friendship to make sure that it benefits the both of us? Those conversations I find aren't happening enough, and we actually have to also be okay with losing people. I'm okay with if I have to lose someone because of whatever the situation is. You still have those memories, you still have those lessons from the friendship, because again, as much as we'd like to think something is for a lifetime, sometimes it's not. But if you want something, I think you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the work, and you have to communicate as things change and we grow. Like my best friend had gotten married, 2014. Getting married changed our relationship. The things that she used to do prior to being a married woman changed a little bit. She, her and her husband had more married couple friends, and they did more things as a married couple. But again, we still worked to make sure that our friendship was what it was. And I would communicate with her sometimes, since you got married, I do feel a little slighted. I understand. And she got it. I didn't hide it. I didn't pull away from her. I was very clear. And what can we do to make sure that we maintain our friendship, whether it's, once a week, the Skype calls, or WhatsApp video calls, or, dates once a month, or whatever it is. Again, just like any other romantic relationship, you would do that. I think it's just as important in a friendship.
Oh, wow, that's so good. That was really good, because I lost a long-term friendship. Wow, it's been 20 years. 3 years ago, before the pandemic, 3 years ago, and he just cut us off. And it was very hurtful, but I had to go back to the seasons. That's what saved my feelings, was that, I enjoyed the time that we had together. I'm not going to force you to be my friend. You either are my friend or not my friend. And so I had to do that. And I do believe that when I moved back to St. Louis from the Navy, all my friends had gotten married and had kids. So I was the single one. So I had to realize that our friendships was going to be different because they were married, they had kids, and they were doing things and stuff. And it's funny because now they're all divorced, and they're grandmas, and I'm married and with kids, so it's the opposite, and they're like, well, come on, we're going to the clubs, and I'm like, girl, I did the clubs in my 20s, I ain't going to no clubs. And they were married in their 20s, so they missed the clubs, and so it's funny, the different things that, how things switch around, but I do believe that, like you said, you have to revisit, like you said, revisit that friendship contract and talk about your friendship. And I think that's something that you have to learn to do. I don't think a lot of people don't know about having that conversation. Like I know people I'm mad at her, and did she know you met her? I don't care.
That's true.
You're not even talking. I remember one time we had a silly fight, me and my best friend. We went to the bathroom, and I came out the bathroom. She wasn't there, so I left. Saying, what the heck? Why would she leave me? Now she's still in the stall. I didn't know she's still in the stall. So when she comes out, she thinks I left her. So we get home. She calls me. I can't believe you left me. I'm like, you left me. Neither one of us. We're mad at each other for like 2 days, and then finally we come back to talk, and she goes, I thought you left me. And I'm like, I thought you left me too. And she's like, boy, we're stupid.
Exactly, right?
We talked to each other for 2 days because we thought the other left the other, and neither one of us left. We just didn't realize we were still in the bathroom at the same time. But I always think about that. If we had just talked instead of not talking, we could have seen what happened. So communication is very important in anything that you do.
Amen.
I did want to talk about Miss Girlfriend saying that they only invited you because you was black. What the heck?
Listen, girl, let me tell you, it was
you.
It was such a moment where you really think, and I think everything, stepping back from that, everything came, and I talk about it in the book, right? Like, again, we get this message that, as black people, we need to work twice as hard for half as much. And, I had this moment, it was like, here I was, I worked hard, and I was in the seat I was because I deserved it. I had worked hard for it. And I was asked to speak at this event. Had nothing clearly to do with I was black. I was actually going back into my old community that I grew up in, and I was doing a charity drive there. And they thought, wow, what a great opportunity for you to speak because you were in the neighborhood, you've left the neighborhood, you're coming back to do good things. My mother actually still lived in the neighborhood. So there were many reasons for them to ask me to speak. None of them had to do with the fact that I was black. And I thought the gall of this woman to look at me, and that's the first thing that comes to mind. Now, when she was confronted about it, she claimed that it was a joke, and, she meant it as a joke, and then she burst into tears in the meeting.
That's right. She started crying, didn't she?
Girl, like, I don't even what I want to say is going to keep it to myself, but I think where I'm going.
Right.
Tears, right? Like, that's the go-to for certain races of women, right? It's going directly to tears, and I'm sitting completely unmoved and unfazed. Like, how dare you cry about the fact that you tried to micro-invalidate me, and, basically you were being very racist, but you now want to cry, and I should be upset for you because I didn't take your joke as a joke, which wasn't a joke. It was a whole mess, and I kind of just walked away from that, and I said, you know what? This message that we keep giving children generation after generation, we need to stop it because the reality is we're end up being burnt out and still unappreciated, right? We are the bearer of everything. If something's going wrong, there's a black woman there to hold it all together or put together the pieces, but how many times are we overlooked when the appreciation is like, oh, thank you, Stacey Abrams, for everything you've done. But then it's like, okay, how do you actually show her that you're grateful and appreciative for what she's done for the Democratic Party? Like, she's one example of, a black woman who's gone out there, and it's okay, what else do you have for her other than a thank you, right? And it was just kind of like enough. And like I said, when this book started, it really was like therapy, but I started thinking about, how many times as I look in my career, having worked really hard, I had a job where I had 2 titles, only to find, and I was making the company money. I had, in 2 years, I'd increased the gross profit margin by over 23% because I started a brand new division. And once I finally left the company because another company offered me like $20,000 more, I found out that I was making the same as one of the director's assistants. What? How? Right? Like, and it was all of these things, and I was like, but then what I also did is I looked at my personal life and realized what a shambles that was in, because I had been putting all of this energy into my professional pursuits, and I was a single mother. So it's like mothering, making sure that my daughter sees me as a good example, doing all those things. My personal life was a mess, and that's when I realized, like, I'm putting all of this effort over here, none over here, but over here probably in the end of it's going to be the more fulfilling, but I'm now missing out because I'm pouring everything over here. And so that's how the book evolved into basically even talking about my personal life and my dating life and the mistakes that I made, and, having other women not, make that mistake. Like, one of the chapters I have is "You're single because you're a bitch." It's true.
Oh, okay. But you know what? It's true, because I have a lot of friends that were single in their 40s, and I told them, I said, you're going to have a hard time finding a man because you don't need one. And they're like, what? Men look for women who need them. You don't need them.
Thank you.
You got a house, you got a car, you got a fantastic job, you're making all the money. Where do he fit into your life?
Nowhere.
It's not about being in your bed. It's about
nowhere.
He contributes. He's your helpmate. He's your partner. And a lot of people, I had to tell one of my friends, I'm like, you gotta get stuff off your plate so you can have a man.
All of that.
Your whole plate is full. When do you supposed to have time to date?
All of that.
A single man, a man that he was doing everything. His whole life was 24/7, and I'm like, man, you ain't got time to date. Oh, I got time. Where? You doing something Monday through Sunday? When do you have time for a woman? Well, she just got to come with me. Ain't no woman coming with you.
No. And listen, LaShaunda, that's what I was told. I became, in the book I talk about becoming a serial date rescheduler, because I would be, I would make dinner plans for 8 o'clock thinking that gives me enough time to go home, get ready. I would be sitting, and it would be the date night, and it's like 7 o'clock, I'm in the office. I'm like, holy shit. I know that I can't leave, go home, get ready, and get to where I am. And I think I got to the point where one guy was like, I can't date you. Like, you don't even have, like what message are you sending? You don't even have time for this. And I thought, but I want to. But, again, I hadn't prioritized that part of my life. And I think a lot of us, when we get to a certain point, because we've worked hard, we lead with what we've done. We lead with the fact that we are strong and independent and have a good job and da-da-da. Men don't actually care about that. Men, like my boyfriend puts it the best, he's like, men are wired to want to add to someone's life. If you're basically saying you have it all, what do I add? I don't add anything.
Right.
I had nothing. I had no value.
A married woman that it's not about you, LaShaunda.
Exactly.
I get caught up in my online stuff, and then I'll be like, I do have a family and children and husband. And so you have to. I had to learn how to schedule the family in, because if I didn't put them on the schedule, then I wouldn't. It's Saturday, and I got the whole day full. So now I'm like the week. I had to reorganize myself, and the weekends is the family. That's the family stuff. And I got invited to do a presentation in June, and it's my husband's birthday weekend, and I was like, I said, before I say yes, let me talk to him. I'm like, what are you doing for your birthday? Are you going to take off? You want to do something? What day? He's like, well, I'm taking Saturday off. And I said, okay. So the event was Friday and Sunday. So I'm like, I'm okay. I said, I can run off and do some stuff and still have time to hang out with him on Sunday if he wants to hang out. But you have to organize your life where you can put people in it. If not, you will be by yourself. You will, and
Amen.
You only have yourself.
So. Yeah, and we have, and again, it was sitting down and writing this book and really, like I said, pouring. I basically was like vomiting on paper and getting it all out for me to really sit back and go, many of us need to hear this message, right? And I think, as women, and I love how you're saying you're talking to your girlfriends and having that conversation, because as women, we need to hold other women accountable for what they're putting out there. And again, we've been taught that as Black women especially, we're supposed to be strong, we're supposed to be independent, we're supposed to take no ish and no prisoners and so forth. And yes, that might work in the corporate world, but when you come home, you've got to put your armor down. A man wants support and love and care and patience. And you know what I'm saying? Like all of those different things. It's the soft skills. It's the things that we hold as feminine creatures, and I put in the book, no straight man wants to date another man, and that's what we look at talking about we're the strong Black independent woman.
Wow. Wow. That is so deep. Me and my sister, we have conversations all the time about being my mom taught us to be independent. We don't need anything. And I said, I think she did us a disservice because, when we meet men, they can't handle us. But my husband, we tit for tat. He can handle me because we've been together for a long time. But if I know sometimes I get on his nerve because I be trying to run it when he's like, look, I'm running.
Right?
We running it together, dude. We running it together. And my sister, now that she's single again, I tell her that. I'm like, she's come up with this list of what men are going to be and do and stuff. And I'm like, girl, ain't nobody going to ever hit that list because that's not how it is. Each person is different, and you have to accept them for who they are. Everybody has flaws. I said, but you got to let him be a man.
Here's the thing that's sorry, not to cut you, LaShaunda, but what's so interesting about this list when women bring this list? My boyfriend said it best, and when he said it, I took back. He's like, what a lot of these modern women don't realize is men do the choosing. Nobody cares about your list. A man chooses the relationship, right? It is not often. Why is it that women have the conversation with men about where are we when they don't have a title? What are we going to be? We've been dating for 3 or 4 months, and I don't have a title. It's because men actually choose. Men choose the women that they want to be with.
My cousin, a man, we were talking, and he says, a man knows immediately if he wants to be with you or he don't want to be with you. He says, like you're saying that title, when he doesn't give you a title, it's because he don't want to be with you. It's like, whoa, and he's like, well, think about your relationships. And usually the guy, I really like you, and we need to get together, or he's like, well, we could just hang out. You're like, oh my, when he said that, I was like, I looked at the different guys that I dated, and I was like, he was serious. The men that I had relationships with was up front from the beginning. And the
Amen.
Ones, as I call it, just kick it, that's all they wanted was to kick it. And I tell my sisters that all the time. I said, men choose the relationship. We just want to be friends. It's no such thing. You either gonna be in a relationship or you're not. Which one is it? People, you've been with somebody 18 years and he ain't put a ring on your finger. Dude is not putting the ring on your finger.
Girl, you're not the one. And that's what, and I always feel bad for women like that because the fact is they've wasted their good years. And often what happens is that man leaves that relationship, finds a woman who he's more in tune with, and marries her within a year or two.
Yeah, Harry met Sally. Sally. If you ever watch Harry Met Sally, that's what Sally cried about. Why didn't he want me, dude? But dumped her and got married a couple of weeks later. Like, what the?
And it happens, right? And again, a man. a man knows what he wants, but often the time we're trying to barter or negotiate or create this relationship, and men are actually over there looking at us like we're being ridiculous, because they're like, even you can do all of this. You can come with all of your fancy degrees, all of your this, all of your that. If I don't want to be with you, I don't want to be with you, because at the end of the day, and my boyfriend's a real alpha male. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, communication and respect and loyalty are important to him. He said, how many times do people go into relationships and often the woman has 1 foot in and 1 foot out? We're being taught that we're supposed to have, our mad money, our kind of like an exit strategy. He's like, generally when a man goes into a relationship, he's all in. It is the woman who generally leaves relationships. And when I really thought about it, I was like, I've left every relationship I've ever been in. He's like, women leave.
I'm thinking about mine, and yeah.
But when you think about it, it is very rare. He looked at me, he's like, if anyone breaks up this relationship, it's you. You're leaving, right? Because I came into this relationship knowing I want to be here. And barring anything, because our number one rule in our relationship is no disrespect. We don't care how angry we are. We're still going to speak to each other with a level of respect. Mm-hmm. And you know when you're about to cross that line of disrespect, right? And so that was our big thing, and constantly making sure that we communicate. Because, again, we talked about what our lives would look like, all of those different things. Culturally, we're different. We lived in different – I was in Canada at the time when we met. I've, again, recently come here. He had younger kids. I had already raised my kids. So we have to talk about all of it. What does this look like? Would we make a good partnership? Because fundamentally, when you go into a relationship, it's like a contract, right? And a contract, you get a little bit, they get a little bit, you give up some, they give up some. It's never, no one goes into, if a woman goes into a relationship thinking, here's my list and I'm supposed to get everything I want, good luck, you need to go find another woman to go live with. Like, seriously, right? That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, I tell my sister that all the time. I will admit, before I met my husband, I had a list, and he actually hit a whole bunch of stuff on there, but it was a lot of stuff that he didn't hit. And then I realized that, the person who hit the list the way I wanted it was a cheater. So they're gonna always have some kind of flaw. He was my before I met my husband, I was engaged to someone, and I thought he was perfect. He was everything. But he was a cheater. We were separated 3 months, and he met somebody he got to hang out with, and it's like,
wow,
really, dude, really. But
and you find someone now who doesn't necessarily hit all of the benchmarks. But what I say to women is, there's a difference between your list of non-negotiables and your list of nice to have, right? There are certain fundamental things that honestly you're like, this is important to me and I will not waver. And then there's your nice to have. The fundamental things that were important to me, my boyfriend has a lot of them. The nice to have, he don't have plenty of them. But you know what? The non-negotiables were more important to me. Again, who is this a person who's going to make a good match for me? And, when we talk about our lives, we talk about it in sections. For us, it's like this is what the next 12 to 18 months to 36 months looks like for us. And when we hit a certain pinnacle, we need to sit down and renegotiate what this contract looks like, right? How do we work now in this new space? I think a lot of people, again, go into this with a lifetime, and this is how things are going to be forever. I'm in a different part of my life where my career, I've changed careers. I have a talk show, I have a radio show. I'm writing these books. That's my focus. And so our decision was I should focus on that. But, again, he's got young kids that he's got primary custody of, and I would stay more at home to be with the kids and do all of that while he worked and did what he needed to do. And he says, babe, it's not enough if, it's when your career takes off. Guess what? When your career takes off, we have to look at this differently. You may not be at home as much. You may be doing different things. So that's when we sit down and say, okay, this is now our new paradigm. What does this look like right now? Because the situation has changed. And I think a lot of people don't have those conversations and think, we got together 20 years ago and this is how it's always going to be. But people change, situations change, dynamics change, the economy change, so many things change. You need to look at that contract ever so often and say, are things still working? And if not, what do we need to change?
I love that. I wish I had talked to you before I got married. Because that's exactly what happens, I'll be married 25 years this year, and it's all like we're totally different from when we first started. When we first started, Friday night was wrestling we watched wrestling together, and we did that for like 10 years. So, but now I don't even watch wrestling. He still watches wrestling, but I don't. So I do different things. He does. One of the things that I love about my husband is that he knows I have a writing community, I have a writing life, and that I wanted to be a writer. And so he respects that. He actually gave me my first computer so I could write my stories.
I love that.
One of my friends made me realize that one time I went to a conference, and she came with her husband, and I was like, I wish my husband would come to the conferences with me. And she's like, no, you don't. Because you have your freedom, you can do what the hell you want. She said, I got to go have lunch with him. I can't hang out with you guys. He don't understand that I'm hanging out with y'all till midnight. He want to know why I'm down here. Go home. It always looks better. And I thought about it. It always looks better on the other side because all you see is the side. You don't see the whole side. And so she told me, she said, you go to your writing thing. She said, I know you want him to come, but that gives him his peace while you're gone. He gets to hang out with the kids. You go this way. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad you said that to me because I never even looked at it. I thought he was being selfish and not coming with me. She's like, girls, why would he come here and he going to sit in the hotel? Who wants to do that? And I was like,
Nobody wants to do that. Okay, so, nobody.
I appreciate it because he told me something. You went on a vacation every year since we've been married. I ain't been on one. And I'm like, yeah, I go to my writing things every year, And so I said, well, you know what? I thank you for letting me go on my things instead of, I know some people that's like, oh, I can't go. My husband doesn't like me to go anywhere without him. And I'm like, Lord, I haven't been so many places without my husband.
Right? Because you still have to grow as an individual, and it's funny. It's funny you say that because my boyfriend is in a space where again I've just moved from everything and everyone I know into a space to be with him, and he's like, listen, I'm going to give you a year, but it's important that you carve your life out here. You have to remember that your life there is non-existent. It's not that you don't live there anymore. You live here, and I'm going to support you, but go out and find a girlfriend. They may not be your best friend, but find somebody you can just go to drinks with and just kind of have, because he's like, I know it's important for you to have that time and that space and to be able to do that. So he completely encourages and supports. And I think, again, when I look at my list of non-negotiables, that was important. As it's the same with me and him. And again, so, he wasn't looking at, oh, yes, I've got a degree and I was, able to make it up the corporate ladder and I was in these rooms with these important people. None of that mattered. It was really, was I the type of woman who he could see himself with, and he would be proud to help raise his kids. And I think a lot of women don't think about that. Are you the type of person where a man would look at you and be like, I am proud to be with this woman, not because she's the CEO of Microsoft, but because at the end of the day, she's got these intangible qualities I can't find in another woman. My boyfriend says a man is not supposed to make a woman feel special. He's supposed to make her feel invaluable. There's a big difference.
Yes, I love that. Invaluable.
Yes, and he said to a girlfriend of mine, he's like, I'm supposed to make her she feel special, but she's invaluable to me. I know I'm not going to go out and find another her. And I think a lot of women, if we drop our guard and really stepped back and look at some of the ways, like our great-grandmothers and our grandmothers and some of the ways about them that actually worked within relationships, we would drop some of that, alpha female kind of machoism. I think right now it's destroying Black families, in my opinion. But that's just my 2 cents.
Well, I think that we've had to hold it down for so long we don't know how to let it go so that we can become a family again. The black community has always been the woman was the head of the household, and we have taken it to generations that way. So like if you go to the with me and my husband together with our kids, we go to the school and they would go, well, is there a father in the house? Well, yeah, he's right here. And they're not used to that. They're not used to a father being in a home. And so it's really hard. And I think it's because we, I tell my kids that we have kids first, and then we go get the husband. And you have a hard time with that because most of the time you've had your kids a long time than your husband, and then your kids got to compete with the husband. That's why you're supposed to have the husband first, and then when the kids come, then you ain't got to compete with each other because the husband was already there first. The husband, when he comes second, then he always thinks, well, your kids go always outrank me. And, and people, and you hear women say that just have kids and they don't have a husband. Well, my husband, my kid's supposed to come first. No, the husband is supposed to come first.
The husband's supposed to come first.
Right. First God, then your husband, then your children.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, children, God, then the husband.
Well, it's so interesting because, I'm Jamaican and we're kind of groomed to serve our men, serve our husbands, take care of our families, the household, all of that. And I always think about, like, when I make a meal and I cook in the kitchen and I'm plating the food, my man gets it first and then I serve my kids. Like, there's a reason. I don't think kids come to the table and eat while he's waiting, and then I serve myself and then serve him. That's just not how it goes. Generally, you serve your plate to your partner, your husband, your boyfriend, your fiance, whomever, then the kids, and then I know for me, because I've done that, I then serve myself last. We sit down and we eat. And people have to think, why do we do that? Really? Because at the end of the day, the way we were, back home is these children did not contribute to why there's food on the table.
Oh, my goodness. That is a big Facebook fight every year. Somebody posts that. Who's supposed to get the plate first? And my mother raised that the man is fed first and then the children. And that's how my husband will get the plate, and then then the kids will get their plate. And I still make their plates. And sometimes I'll be telling them, y'all are so spoiled. My kids would go, like if I made some pancakes, when they were little, I used to cut their pancakes up. When they got to be like teenagers, I was like, you can cut your own pancakes. Mama, what you doing? I said, y'all are spoiled. But they'll tease their dad sometimes if I bring the plates in at the same time and I hand the kid a plate and then I hand my husband a plate, they'll be like, yeah, we the big dogs today. She gave it to me.
And there's nothing wrong with, there's this new generation of women who think that there's something wrong with serving your partner as if it makes you less than. And traditionally, the man, he's the leader of the house, and he is, yes, these days the lines are skewed, but generally has been the breadwinner, and therefore it makes sense that, again, this man is nurtured and loved and so forth. And, in my household, any man that comes into this house, I serve them. If we have a friend of my boyfriend staying with us currently, he just moved in from out of town, and when I make dinner, I share it to the both of them. And it's funny, I didn't realize he said it, but my boyfriend said he looked at him one night, he was like, they don't make them like that anymore. And I thought, that's actually sad.
Mm-hmm. But
I was saddened by that. I felt good for myself, but I was saddened because, again, I don't feel less of. I've had a really good career. I've done really great things. I've accomplished a lot of great things. But in this new stage of my life, there's something else that's more important, and it's nurturing the relationship and the kids. And my career, whatever becomes of it, I will be proud that I've been able to do this part really well. I have a biological daughter who's 19, and to me, it's like she's my greatest joy. I look at my life and go, I've raised her to be a great human being. Like, she's finished her second year of university. She's going to be on the dean's list. She got all A's this year, in a pandemic, online school, just kind of taking her out of her comfort zone. She's a competitive dancer. She's working hard. She does all of these amazing things, and I'm proud of that. Yes, I'm proud of all the other things I did at work, but that makes me proud. And it doesn't make me less of a woman because I desire to now do that with a partner, biological kids or not. And I think I think the messages that we're getting are very interesting, because this idea of a woman doing that as a slave to her man or not equal, or it's just a very interesting place to be in, I think.
Yeah, it's really hard because on one hand, people want to have relationships, and then on the other hand, they want to be in control. And so,
yeah, they want to be independent. Yeah, the whole idea of a relationship is interdependent, right? You cannot be independent in a relationship. That means by yourself. So this idea of, I want to be in a relationship, but I want my independence. Huh?
Mm-hmm. I see that even with, for instance, with writing, having a writer's group. We have people that want to come and join, but they wouldn't commit to maybe making the date. They're like, I want to write this book. I want you guys to help. I want to be in this group. I want to do this. But they would never commit to the date of coming. And so when we did our writers group, I told them, I said, we're going to have it on the second Saturday of the month. You do not schedule nothing on that second Saturday of the month from 11 to 2. We're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a commitment to myself that, unless I'm getting paid, that's the only way I'm not coming. And I would tell, and I tell my family that my writing meeting is very important to me. So I'm not, if you schedule something on that, I'm not going to be there because I'm going to this meeting. This is my, I need to hang out with these people who understand writing. And I'm committed to that. And when you're doing a relationship, you have to be committed to that relationship. You have to be committed to making time to hang out. One of my friends, we during the pandemic, we hadn't seen each other all year, and she's like, let's meet up somewhere. We met up and sat in the car for like 3 hours just running our mouths. And I told her, I just sent a message to her, and I told her, I said, it's time for us to have our yearly meetup because we haven't done it. She's like, oh my God. But we realized she's like, I've been so busy, but her job keeps her busy. And I stay busy doing online stuff, but I realized that you got to pencil in that friendship. You have to.
Amen.
If not, you end up being people like, after a while people stop calling. They stop trying to because you're that person that goes, well, I had one friend used to tell me all the time, well, just give me another rain check. And I was telling my sister, I said, well, how many rain checks do I have to give her?
One rain check is allowed. Anything after that, it's you basically saying you don't have time for me, and what you're doing is more important than me. Right. That's what that does to me.
Yeah, and I had to, and I realized that, and I said, the pandemic made me realize how many of my friends I hadn't been hanging out with and doing stuff, and so I said, okay, I'm going to make it my business to check in with people at least once a month and see how people are doing, and so that's what I was doing with her, and she couldn't even talk on the phone. I was like, okay,
wow.
And then what she was doing was send me a message back. I'm sorry, I'm doing so and so, and and I was like, okay. But I left you. What I did was I left it alone. I said, you know what? If we're meant to hang out or be friends or whatever, it's her turn. The ball is on her court, and she called. And I was like, okay, here we go, because I said I was done being the caller. It's
because you start getting a bit resentful, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you can, because with phones you can see who's calling you, and I'm like, you're not even answering the phone, which means you say, oh, that's LaShaunda, I'll call her later. That's how I see it. Even though she might have been busy working, which I can understand that, but okay, I'll get a text later. Oh, I was doing so and so. Really? Okay. So. Yeah,
you make time. I've learned, and I know we have to wrap up, but the one thing I'll say is we make.
I didn't even ask you no questions. We just been talking about this relationship thing. Let me see. So I have one question for you. What's the most interesting thing that has happened to you because you've become a published author?
You know what's been interesting is a lot of people surprisingly were like, this is the direction I thought you should have gone in. And I had thought about being a published author until really the pandemic. Like, I loved writing. I would write for work. When I was a kid, I would write short stories, but nothing I would publish. And then, the pandemic hit, and I decided that this is the direction I wanted to go in. But it was interesting because people had seen something in me that I hadn't yet seen myself, and I get more and more people who are saying, I have a story in me. Can you help me get it out? Like, how did you do it? And you realize I always say, if you have a story to tell it. For me, writing is, other than my child, it's my legacy. I always say, long after I'm gone, my book could end up on some child or grandchild or great-grandchild's bookshelf, you know what I'm saying, because their parents bought it, right? Somebody in their family bought it, and what a legacy it is. And so it's interesting how many people have wanted to do something but have hesitated to do it, but once they see someone close to them have done it, they feel more open and more free and more willing to try it.
Yeah. I got that a lot when I publish my book. I tell my clients all the time, get ready, because as soon as you hit that, as soon as it publishes, then you become the expert, and everybody want to talk to you. Oh my God, people. Well, what did you do? Like you said, how did you do it? What do I need to do? And I give 3 assignments, and then I'm like, if they're serious, they'll come back. If not, then you wasn't serious. It's in your head.
But what 3 assignments do you give them? I'm curious. What are your 3 assignments?
Well, I tell them to write for 15 minutes every day. Just get it out. Don't think about it. Just get it out. And then I tell them to oh man, I just went blank. Write 15 minutes a day. Well, first I tell them to write an outline. You have to do an outline. Do an outline. Talk about what is it that you want, and then and I tell you, think about who is this book for? Why do you want to write this book? And then I tell them to write for 15 minutes. And most people, I always tell them to write for 15 minutes. And most of the time, if they're serious, they'll do it. If not, then they'll be like, yeah, she crazy. It's hard. And then they go about their business.
I love that. I actually really like that a lot. I might try that, because honestly, 15 minutes is not a long time in the grand scheme of things.
It seems like a long time once you start doing it. You be like, "There, this 15 minutes. You can do a lot in 15 minutes." That's a lot for myself, because sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, I'm so worn out," and I'll go up to 15 minutes, and I set the timer for 15 minutes, and then I do whatever I got to do. And then I'll be like, okay, see, you did it, and then you can scratch it off the list and keep it moving. So I want to know a little bit about your radio talk show. Before.
Oh, God, thank you for asking. So this was something that came, actually, it's funny enough how the talk show started is, so I host, it's called Not Your Typical Girl Talk. I host it with 2 girlfriends, 2 sisters from Toronto. And how it started is we had all discovered this website called futureme.org, where you can write a letter to your future self. And so we had both done that in January 2019 for it to be delivered in January 2020. And let's just say we got punched in the gut when that letter came back, because we hadn't done anything we actually wanted to do in the letter. Right? We had been, again, so busy with careers and so forth. We had put in all of these personal aspirations, and I hadn't hit one benchmark. And it was talking to one of my girlfriends, and I mentioned my letter. She started laughing, telling me about her letter and that her sister had done the same thing. And I thought, how interesting this is, 3 women who are accomplished in so many ways couldn't hit personal benchmarks. Like, what's going on here? And then I woke up the next day after that conversation and said, you know what? We should start a talk show. I think we should just start a talk show. We're going to, put it on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, start a talk show. Luckily for me, they agreed. And, we had gotten accustomed to once a month getting together and having girl talk anyways and catching up. So I was like, we're basically going to take our girl talk dinners and just basically do this weekly, right? And they were like all on board, thought it was a great idea. You know, we started the show February 1st, 2020, and then March 2020, the pandemic, like we got shut down in Toronto. Toronto was actually still partially shut down, so they have not been fully open since March of last year. I have not been in the same room doing the show with my co-host since March of last year, and now I'm in a whole different country. So, you know, we kept showing up every single week. We've talked about a variety of topics, you know, Black Lives Matter, the Breonna Taylor thing, politics. Now we're more talking about, you know, popular events, things that are going on, you know, a little bit of scandals and so forth. And we actually added, my boyfriend is kind of a male correspondent to give a male voice. And about, I'd say 8 months into the show, I happened to be talking to someone, and unbeknownst to me, they were the executive director of a radio show. They popped into one of our live shows one day and then sent me a message after saying, hey, loved your chemistry. We have a slot on this radio show. Would you be interested? And, of course, we said yes. So we actually have a talk show that is also a radio show. So we do it live Saturdays through our Instagram, Not Your Typical Girl Talk. And then basically I strip that audio and send that audio to the radio station, and then it's on the radio on iHeartRadio. We stream through Radio Regent on iHeartRadio.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that. I think
I finally started doing things, you know, that moment, that kind of punch in the gut, plus what my colleague had said, that all happened within like 6 weeks of each other. And I think I needed that punch in the gut after the comment, because I, again, realized how much work I was putting in, but I really wasn't feeling, there was no passion behind it. I was working to make a living, right? And finally, you know, I'm in a space where I'm passionate about the things that I do. When I sit down to write, there's no angst. When every Saturday when I do the show, or when we plan the show during the week, I don't have angst. And I used to have this Sunday night angst that would come up with me getting ready for the work week. And, you know, finally, after I've been working since I was 17 years old. I had my first full-time corporate job at 22. So it's like work. And this is the first time in a very long time, if ever, I actually really enjoy what I do. And this is when they say, you know what, you love what you do, even if, you know, you would do it if they didn't pay you. And right now, being a self-published author, no, I don't have a book deal, right? It's me pushing my books. It's me promoting. Again, it's me showing up in spaces and doing things like that. But I would do it over and over again. And that's when I realized, like, this was important for me.
Yeah, my literary career, when I first started, I used to call it my fantasy job. Because I wasn't getting paid. But I did it for free, and it was like, I said, look, I did something for free for 10 years, so I know it's possible. But that's what gave me happiness. That's what gave me peace. And so I tell my kids that, you know, it's nice to have a job that pays you good money, but if you're not happy there, the money don't mean nothing, you know. So
nothing.
Find something that makes you happy and do that. And that's why a lot of people aren't returning jobs, because they realize that they weren't happy. They just was working.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you can get good unemployment, why would you go back? And less stress. I bet you we got a lot of happy, high blood pressure.
Unemployed people. There are a lot of happy unemployed people right now.
Yes. You know, and so I was telling somebody, I say, look, the best part of the pandemic was the food, because I was like, you know what, no amount of money that I can spare on food, because I ain't going nowhere. I ain't spending money to gas, so why not get that lobster tail if I want?
Right?
You know?
Love it.
And nothing else has taught me, you know, get what you want, because life is, you know, it's short. It can take you out of here anytime, and then you be talking about something, oh, I was going to do this, and I was going to do that, you know, and so you gotta enjoy it now. I'm about enjoying it now and being happy now.
Amen. That's what I've embraced. And that's why, you know, that situation, I'm so thankful that it happened. Again, in the moment, there was a lot of emotions and everything behind it. But, you know, after writing the book and stepping back, I'm like, I was thankful because that was the wake-up call I needed in order for me to actually start living on a path that was better for me. And, you know, it opened me up to love. It allowed me to just be in a different space. I mean, I'm a proponent of therapy. I think therapy is important, especially for Black people who were suffering from PTSD just from the world. And so, you know, there was a lot that was happening at that time. I meditate daily. Like, I just do certain things in my life to bring myself peace. Because at the end of the day, I desire peace. I desire peace in my life. I desire peace in the life of those around me. And I don't bring people in my life that are going to disrupt my peace.
That's wonderful. I love that. And it takes a lot to do that, you know, because people will try you. And I believe that everything happens for a reason. You know,
amen to that.
That statement there, into realizing that you had something to share to the world. You probably didn't need to share to the world. And so sometimes you just had to get a little push to see, you know, and like you said, that's the legacy that you're going to leave behind. I do believe that books are a legacy, that you know, books can be here for centuries. And so I love that. And some young lady's going to pick this book up and say, let me get my life right.
Exactly. And that's what I was like. I'm like, every chapter won't be for everybody, but each chapter will be for somebody.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And, you know, I know this different type of podcast. We didn't talk too much about writing, but we talked about relationships. And relationships, it goes hand in hand when it comes to writing, because you got to have relationships with your family, with your friends, and with your readers. I talk about that a lot, that you have to have relationships with your readers. And if you don't know how to have a relationship, then you won't understand it. You won't understand
exactly. And how to nurture it and how to grow it.
Why do I got to say hi to them? Why do I have to communicate with them? I'm just writing a book. I don't have to be friends with them. No, you don't have to be friends with them, but you need to understand why readers have writers that they love and writers that they might support, or writers that they don't support. And it's about the relationship. It really is. It's all about the relationship and how you made them feel. How you made them feel, either by your word or action. So.
Amen. It's so important. And I love the fact that you said that, because relationships are the cornerstone of any business. Right? And being an author, or the authoress, as I like to call myself, is a business, right? Good relationships will grow a business. Bad relationships will sink a business. And if people think that just because they're behind a book, whether it's a pen name or your real name or whatever it is important to grow that relationship, because that your readership will go up. Because guess what? It just takes one person with influence right now to put your book on a social media platform like, oh my God, this is an amazing book, and all of a sudden your book sales go out the window. Imagine you come back to that person and you're mean to them or rude to them or whatever it is. That same they can go back and take that, and it plummets your sales, right? And people are talking bad about you, and that's what people don't realize. Like, that's so important.
Yes, a reader can make or break you. You know, everybody's always talking about they want to get Oprah Winfrey, but Oprah can make you or she can break you.
Amen.
She's a reader too. You can say something mean about her, and she'd be like, "Yeah, don't buy his book."
Pretty much, exactly. He
hasn't done that. So you want to be on the good side,
Well, I agree with you, and the core of that is knowing how to build, nurture, and grow relationships.
Yes, that is so very important. I really have enjoyed this conversation. I want to thank you for being here today. Please tell the listeners how they can contact you online.
Perfect. So you can go to my website, which is www.iamtoshiba.com, Toshiba. I'm also on Instagram. My personal page is Toshiba Monique. So again, first name Toshiba, middle name Monique, Monique. And also through my talk show, Not Your Typical Girl Talk. That is our Instagram. We also are on YouTube and on Facebook.
All right. I will be checking this talk show out.
Thank you so much. Please follow us.
I want to thank our sponsors, Using Canva for Book Promotion Video Series. Have you wanted to try Canva.com but didn't know where to start? LaShaunda Hoffman created a series for you. Inside the series, you will learn the basics of Canva, how to create a biographic, a quote graphic, a book blurb graphic, an animated graphic, and bookmarks. These graphics you can use to promote you and your books. The videos will take you step by step to help you create your own graphics you can use daily. Check the show notes for the links to the Using Canva for Book Promotion video series and start creating graphics like a social butterfly. I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking time to listen to the podcast. I have 3 questions for you. Did you enjoy this episode? Subscribe to the platform you're listening to so you don't miss an episode. Number 2, what did you think of the episode? Tell us by writing a review on the platform you're listening to or send to onesormag@gmail.com. Number 3, did you learn something from this episode? If you did, please share the podcast with your community. Would you like to be a guest for an episode? Contact me at onesormag@gmail.com. One last question. Have you promoted your book or business today? If you haven't, go showcase those wings. Someone needs what you have to offer. This is LaShaunda Hoffman, and I will see you on the next.